The Elves and the Shoemaker, extended version. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village, there lived a humble shoemaker and his wife. The shoemaker was known far and wide for his craftsmanship, though times had been tough lately. His workshop was small, filled with the scent of leather and wax, and his tools were worn from years of hard work. The shoemaker, despite his diligence, could never seem to make ends meet. Every day, he would sit at his bench, carefully stitching and shaping shoes, but fewer and fewer customers came through the door. The couple had fallen on such hard times that there was only enough leather left for one last pair of shoes. The shoemaker felt a heavy weight on his heart. If he could not sell this last pair, they would surely starve. Still, with a determined spirit, he cut out the pieces for the shoes and laid them on his workbench. He sighed as he cleaned up for the night, telling his wife, "I will finish these tomorrow, and perhaps by some good fortune, someone will buy them." His wife, though equally worried, smiled gently and encouraged him. "Have faith. Things will work out as they should." That night, the shoemaker and his wife went to bed early, hoping for better days. As they drifted off to sleep, something magical stirred in their little workshop. The moonlight streamed in through the window, casting a soft glow over the pieces of leather lying on the bench. Suddenly, two tiny figures appeared from the shadows. They were elves, no taller than a child's toy, with delicate hands and nimble fingers. The elves, though small, were incredibly skilled. They set to work immediately, cutting, stitching, and hammering with astonishing speed and precision. Every stitch was perfect, every cut flawless. By the time the first rays of dawn touched the sky, the elves had finished the most beautiful pair of shoes the shoemaker had ever seen. The leather gleamed, the soles were sturdy, and the design was both elegant and practical. Without making a sound, the elves vanished just as quickly as they had appeared. When the shoemaker woke up the next morning, he was astonished to find the completed pair of shoes on his workbench. He blinked in disbelief, running his fingers over the smooth leather, marveling at the craftsmanship. Who could have done this? He wondered aloud. These shoes are perfect. His wife, equally amazed, came to look. They are finer than any shoes you have ever made, my dear. Perhaps it was a miracle. Without wasting time, the shoemaker placed the shoes in the front window of his shop, hoping someone would come by and notice their exceptional quality. As luck would have it, later that morning, a wealthy merchant happened to be passing through the village. He spotted the shoes in the window and was immediately drawn to them. The merchant entered the shop, his eyes widening as he held the shoes in his hands. "These are magnificent," he exclaimed. "I must have them." The shoemaker, still in disbelief at the turn of events, sold the shoes for a handsome sum of money. With that money, he was able to buy enough leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. He thanked the merchant profusely, and as he sat down to cut the leather that evening, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe things were finally turning around. Just as before, the shoemaker cut the pieces of leather and left them on his workbench, planning to finish the shoes the next day. He and his wife went to bed, but once again, the magic of the night unfolded. The 2 tiny elves returned, their nimble fingers flying as they worked. They stitched, hammered, and shaped the leather into not just 1, but 2 exquisite pairs of shoes. By morning, the shoes were complete, gleaming in the soft light of the workshop. The shoemaker was overjoyed when he discovered the new shoes. He marveled at their beauty and craftsmanship, unable to comprehend how such a miracle had happened again. That day, both pairs of shoes were sold to eager customers, and with the money he earned, the shoemaker was able to buy even more leather. Night after night, the elves returned to the workshop. Each time, they crafted shoes with such precision and skill that they were sold immediately the next day. As word spread of the shoemaker's fine shoes, more and more customers came to his shop. Soon, he became known as the finest shoemaker in the village, and even in neighboring towns, people spoke of the extraordinary quality of his work. However, as the shoemaker's fortunes improved, he and his wife grew more and more curious about the mysterious helpers who worked in the dead of night. Who are they? The shoemaker would often wonder aloud. And why are they helping us? His wife, always practical, suggested they find out. Let us stay up tonight and see for ourselves who is doing this. So that night, the shoemaker and his wife hid behind a curtain in the workshop, waiting quietly in the shadows. Midnight came, and as the moonlight bathed the room in a silver glow, the two tiny elves appeared once again. They were dressed in ragged, threadbare clothes, their bare feet silent as they worked. The shoemaker and his wife watched in awe as the elves skillfully assembled the shoes, their hands moving so fast it was almost a blur. Before dawn, the elves had completed their work and disappeared into the night. The shoemaker and his wife were deeply moved by what they had seen. "They have been helping us all this time," the wife whispered. "And look at their poor clothes. They have done so much for us, and yet they have nothing for themselves." The shoemaker nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "We must repay them for their kindness." The shoemaker's wife decided to sew tiny clothes for the elves, complete with little jackets, trousers, and shirts. She worked carefully, choosing the finest fabric they could afford, and stitching every seam with love and gratitude. The shoemaker, in turn, crafted 2 pairs of tiny shoes, made from the softest leather he could find. They placed the new clothes and shoes on the workbench that night, hoping the elves would find them. As usual, the elves arrived at midnight, but instead of finding leather to work with, they found the tiny clothes and shoes. They gasped in delight, their eyes twinkling with happiness. Without hesitation, they put on their new outfits, admiring how well they fit. The elves danced around the workshop, overjoyed by the unexpected gifts. They laughed and sang, twirling in their new clothes and shoes. After their joyous celebration, the elves quietly slipped out of the workshop and into the night. The shoemaker and his wife, watching from their hiding place, smiled at the sight. They never saw the elves again, but their hearts were filled with gratitude for the little helpers who had turned their lives around. With the success the elves had brought him, the shoemaker continued to prosper. His business flourished, and he and his wife lived comfortably for the rest of their days. Though the elves had disappeared, the shoemaker never forgot their kindness. He often spoke of them with a smile, telling others about the mysterious little helpers who had come when he needed them most. The shoemaker's story spread far and wide, and to this day, people still tell the tale of the elves and the shoemaker, a tale of kindness, gratitude, and the magic that can happen when you least expect it. Do you still like today's story? If you like, please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the like icon. You can receive notifications and hear the latest stories as soon as possible. Good night, my baby.